Well, we are just a couple days out from WWDC 2022, and folks, things are starting to heat up a little bit. And one of the things that's making this event a lot of fun is that there has not been a ton of leaks. Now, you guys know that I love covering leaks here. It's always fun to try to get a glimpse of what Apple's working on, but it's also fun sometimes to just be completely surprised and have no idea. And so what I'd like to do today is talk to you guys about some of the potential hardware that we could see at WWDC. Now, none of this is confirmed. None of this has even really been corroborated by a bunch of people, but that, I think, is what makes it super interesting. So let's talk about what we're hearing so far. Make sure to get subscribed and leave a like down below, and let's get into it. Okay, so first of all, we actually don't know, for sure if there is going to be hardware at WWDC, because let's be honest, it is primarily a software event. So last year, we didn't get any hardware. A lot of people were disappointed, but you have to understand that that's the primary function of WWDC. However, I think this year is going to be different. By the way, apologies if I sound a little off. I've got a bit of a head cold going on, so we're going to try to make it through this video. So generally, as a rule of thumb, Apple doesn't like to do massive WWDCs with a ton of hardware. However, they also don't like to do back-to-back software-only WWDCs with no hardware. So if you look back last year, we had absolutely diddly, no hardware of any kind. But the year before that, we had the announcement of the Apple Silicon transition. So while that wasn't directly released hardware, it was at least announced. Same thing happened in 2019. The Mac Pro and the Pro Display XDR were announced, even though they launched later. But if you back up a year, 2018, there was no hardware at WWDC. A year before that, though, in 2017, we got the iMac Pro and a major refresh of iMacs, MacBook Airs, MacBook Pros, a whole bunch of just spec bumps. So in the last couple of years, Apple hasn't done back-to-back WWDCs, which were software only. And keep in mind that this dub is significant because it marks 2 years since Apple moved to the virtual keynote event. So the fact that this WWDC does have an in-person component, the fact that people are going to Apple Campus to watch this, that is a pretty good indication that if you're gonna invite all these people to fly out to California during COVID, you probably have more than, a new version of tvOS to show them. So what could it be? Well, we've heard some murmurings that Apple could be prepping to launch their new mixed reality headset. It's either AR or VR or some combination of the two. However, both Ming-Chi Kuo and Mark Gurman said that that was not likely, because quite frankly, it seems logical that Apple would want an entire media event dedicated just to that, kind of the way that they handled the Apple Watch, where that was the main focus of an event, and then it launched a little bit later. So I wouldn't exactly get your hopes up for the mixed reality headset just yet, although both Mark Gurman and Ming-Chi Kuo have been very clear that this thing is full steam ahead and probably coming out by next year. So that basically leaves us with the Mac, and honestly, I'm okay with that because the Mac is going really hard right now, and it's been really fun to watch for the past year and a half. And in fact, at WW this year, we could be up for a refresh to Apple Silicon, a next generation chip dubbed the M2. Now, this opens up its own little rabbit hole of, well, what is the M2 exactly? Is it going to be based on the A15 chip? Because, well, as I've talked about in the past, I believe the A15 is based on the M1 because the clock speeds on the performance and efficiency cores are exactly the same on the A15 and on the M1. So what I think happened was the A14 chip was being developed, the M1 spawned out of that with higher clock speeds, and then the A15 spawned out of the M1. So the notion that an M2 chip would be based on the A15 chip, in my mind, doesn't make a ton of sense. So what does that mean for M2? Well, I think it's most likely that the M2 architecture with updated or revised cores would be more akin to an A16 chip. Now, there are some caveats to this, and that is mainly that TSMC's updated process is not ready yet. So that would be a big shift to 3 nanometers on their N3 diode, and I don't think we are quite ready for that. Most reports are indicating that that's more of a 2023 thing. So I would temper expectations to some degree for the M2. I think what we're basically going to be looking at is a revised node with a little bit more performance, a little bit more efficiency, and perhaps a reworked core architecture that uses the same 5 nanometer process. So don't expect any massive die shrinks or increased transistor count or density. I think this is more of a refresh, an upgrade, than a redesign. I talked to McGuire Wood over Twitter DMs, and he talked about how he's already starting to see evidence of the M2 line being worked on, not just M2, but also Pro and Max. Now, what gets really interesting is he thinks that this is not a Mac Pro event, and that rather Apple will use this time to kick off the M2 lineup. And he's also saying that the Mac Pro is not slated to use M1 chips as its foundation. So rather than continuing to expand to the Jade 4C die that we've been hearing about for over a year now, he thinks that was mainly for testing purposes, and that the actual Mac Pro is going to be in the M2 lineup. Now, this I think is really interesting because while McGuire Wood is seeming to think not a Mac Pro event, some people seem to think that it will be a Mac Pro event. I mean, you might notice that I don't have a leak for you guys. In March, I was able to give you a ton of stuff, including the design for the Mac Studio, the design for the Studio Display, the color for the iPhone, and the new color for the iPad. Like, I gave you a lot of stuff. And this time, I got nothing. Now, what does that tell us? Well, as you probably know by now, my sources from the March event were unbelievably accurate. And so the fact that I'm not getting anything this time around tells me that whatever Apple does announce might not be available for sale immediately. I think the fact that I'm not getting any information is an indication that these aren't products that are going to be on sale right away. So that tells you a couple of things. Number one, it could very well be a reveal of the M chip architecture, kind of the way Apple handled 2020. So it's a little bit weird to think about. I definitely am not sold on any one explanation individually, and I think that's a good thing because it means that there's a lot of room for interpretation. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about everything that we've talked about. If there is going to be an announcement, it seems like the most likely one, the one that most people agree on, it's an M2 MacBook Air. But as I mentioned, it's a little weird that I'm not getting any indication of this being ready to launch soon. Mark Gurman tweeted that the MacBook Air was facing shipping delays, but when I checked today, I found that the higher tier one is pretty significantly delayed until mid-June, but the base model tier can be delivered locally in stock today. Also weird is Apple using a developer conference to introduce the cheapest, most affordable, most mass market product. That's in itself a little bit unusual. And then when you add to that the fact that some rumors had previously suggested that the new MacBook Air could just have a normal M1 chip, I don't even know what to think anymore. I mean, what the heck is going on? Whatever the case may be, I'm really excited because we've got a ton of possibilities. A lot of them could be pretty exciting. I mean, Mac Pro, M2, a new MacBook Air. Heck yeah, all of these are really, really awesome. And we only have about 4 days to wait to find out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to tune in Sunday night to Dark Mode, our podcast, where we will be discussing everything that we should expect for the event. And of course, don't forget that on Monday, on WWDC itself, I will be live streaming concurrently. We're going to start an hour beforehand to hype up the show, and then we're going to be streaming alongside WWDC. So I hope to see you guys there. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next one.